think so.
It received an honorable mention.
Yes. I was trying to think of that term, and I couldn't. So I appreciate your support there.
Not a problem. We can finish these up and then go get one of those.
Fuck yeah.
I think we're going to do that. We'll be back right after this.
And we're back. So, as Kaylin looks over these dead bodies... Now, okay, hold on.
That was a very cheerful we're back. So, as she was looking over the dead bodies...
That's what I was... I felt like I had to address it. I'm trying to be, jovial and happy because it's not happy to listen to a podcast that doesn't sound very, enthused.
Everything bad happens all the time, and it's just hard.
But it's a little weird to sound so excited about the death. So I feel like I should mention that it's on purpose. Yeah, it's on purpose.
Fair enough. What the beer can't help, the smiles will, goddammit.
Exactly. So, as she looks over their dead bodies, Kaylin remembers the names of these young girls and thinks about the tragedy that they went through. She wondered why she wasn't crying, but thought maybe she was just numb to it now because it's been a really long fucking day.
Yeah, I mean, look at the last few months even Kaylin has had. Pretty fucking hectic.
Yeah, I mean, and considering, like I said, they have been through a town very similar to this not that long ago.
Right.
So, yeah, her brain's probably a little fried on this kind of shit.
She is all the way into, PTSD mode at this point. Just in shock.
Yeah.
Can't cry. Can't react. It's all a lot.
Yeah, her brain has shut off to, save itself, probably at this point.
Weirdly, paralleling Richard, almost.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Nate puts a point on the board. Not that it's a competition, Jade. I'm winning.
Okay. Somebody needs to start keeping track of that shit. So, when she leaves the room, Chan tells Kaylin that he wants to tell her a story. And her dick ass tries to shoot him down, immediately. She's like, I don't want to hear a story right now, Chandler. And he's like, I'm going to tell you a story now.
I want to tell you a story, he repeats louder. I was like, this is him making a demand. No, you misunderstood me. This is happening, Kaylin. Sit down and listen.
Right. My thought was she can talk about money and shit while death is everywhere around them. And when tough guy Chandlin wants to, open up a little bit and actually tell her some stuff, now's not the time. Fuck you, Kaylin. Shut the hell up. Sit down and listen to a story, okay?
It's because the blood, the gore, and the death doesn't bother Kaylin. It's the feelings that make her uncomfortable.
Yeah.
She's like, no, I don't want a tear story. I can't handle that right now, please.
We're going to keep walking.
Right. They're literally in the middle of one. No more, please.
Yeah. Well, he tells her anyways. Doesn't matter. And the story that he's telling her about is the history of the Mud People, essentially. They used to let people onto their land just willy-nilly. And one of the people that they used to let onto the land was the Jokapo? Jacopo?
Jokapo.
I'm terrible with this shit. I'm not even joking.
Jacopo?
I listened to it.
Jacopo.
Okay. Those people, we're going to say it a couple more times. It's going to be different every time. They seemed cool and peaceful until suddenly one day they switched and started killing and raping the women, many men at a time, for no reason. They started attacking the Mud People for no goddamn reason at all.
Yeah, and like we know, the Mud People, they don't have fighters. So this is not something they were prepared for.
No, not at all. They were just I thought we were having, picnics out on the valley. What's going on, guys?
Right. I mean, I guess I should be clear. Back then, they didn't have fighters. Now they absolutely fucking do.
Yeah.
But when this happened, they weren't prepared for it. So the Jacopo people come into their town. They steal his grandma and rape her. His grandfather, right, gathers men together, and he's like, we are going to go kill those fuckers because they raped my wife and I'm assuming killed her.
Yeah, we don't hear about her after that.
It was kind of, I mean, it felt to me like she was taken away for that reason, and then they just never saw her again.
Yeah.
She was just gone. So,
Yeah.
But the grandpa goes, fuck that. We're going to fight him, and we're going to kill every single last one of them fuckers.
Okay.
As you do.
Yeah.
He calls a gathering. He asks for help, and the spirits give him some really weird advice. They're like, look, dude, stop crying. Now is time for business. You're going to handle this. And after this is done, then you can loosen up and cry. But don't do that until you've gotten basically your vengeance.
It might be a little bit strange, but okay. It makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think what they say is there's plenty of time for that after.
Yeah.
Which is a sad thought, but it's also a true thought. Kaylin's dad said much the same thing. He said, don't cry for the dead until you get your vengeance on those who killed them.
Right.
And Chan can respect the fuck out of that. He's like, yeah, okay. Same rule. Got you. We're basically brother and sister.
Your dad was like fucking talking to the spirits. We're on the same page. We're great.
It's when you look at someone and go, wooden spoon? Mm-hmm. Okay. I know your mom.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably know what you're talking about right now.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people got it a lot worse, but, how many wooden spoon kids are there out there? I know you are.
Raise your hand.
Mm-hmm.
So the ancestors taught Grandpa how to fight and be stealthy. They taught him how to cover himself with mud and attack at night, and he could teach the other villagers how to do all this shit. They didn't fight like the Jacopo because they would lose, because the Jacopo had, like, giant numbers they fought during the day because they weren't afraid. Like, because they were the bigger force.
Yeah, there's strength in numbers, dude. You don't have to be sneaky if you can just overwhelm the enemy.
Right, just like ants on a hill or some shit.
You can just walk in, twirl in a K, and they can't stop all of you.
Right. So instead, the mud people had to kill them anywhere they could catch them off guard, like farming, sleeping, pooping, all that stuff.
The worst.
Yeah.
Okay, so true story. My dad is a Vietnam veteran, and I asked him in my morbid teenage curiosity what the worst part of being there was, and he didn't really give me a straight answer, but he will say that one of the scariest things was literally taking a shit in the woods, because you just don't know. You are there literally with your pants around your ankles, and if something like comes up on you, there's nowhere for you to go.
Now, I've never experienced anything near as terrifying as that.
No,
like,
absolutely
ever.
not.
I won't. I know that.
I was just trying to illustrate the point that what these mud people are doing, effective. Because, it's terrifying.
I'm scared to poop in the woods as it is. Like, I don't... you feel something, like, tickle your butt, and you're like, what was that? Was that grass? Was that a furry thing? I don't fucking know. Not fun.
The real question is, why are you pooping in the woods?
I don't know. That's my point. We have bathrooms for a reason. Camping, right? We camp at places with bathrooms usually. So the mud people made the Jacopo fear the night and the grass and, like, really literally everything around them, instead of the mud people fearing the day, like what the Jacopo have been doing to them.
Yeah, death could literally come out of anywhere. So sleep well, hun.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, they picked away at him long enough to where all the Jacopo were gone. Kaylin knew that meant that they killed the kids too. Like, everybody. And, okay, that may be excessive, but then from the mud people's perspective, they have no idea why that started in the first place. So they just ended it. And they, like, full on ended it.
Yeah.
Won't be a problem anymore.
And again, Kaylin's dad swoops in with his, like, fatherly lessons, and he had told her, you can't give the enemy mercy if they bring the fight to you, because they would not give you mercy if the shit was switched around. So, like, you have to kill the kids, because if shit was switched, they would kill your kids, so you gotta.
Well, they could be like the Keltons and hang on to that shit forever, so you better make sure everybody's dead.
Yeah. Caitlin tells Chan some of her father's philosophies, and Chan totally connects with her for like the first time since he's really interacted with her this whole time. And he says he knows that this stuff isn't easy to learn or live with. He pulls off his mantle and shows her his bone knives strapped to his arms.
Put it away. Fucking show off. You could just take them out. Be like, hey, let's check these out. No, he had to like throw off. He casted off his mantle. Probably gave her a solid pose too. Boom. What you think about that? What if I turn this way? How's that?
Did you forget what they look like? How long has Richard been gone? So one of the knives is from his father and one is from his grandfather. They're carved out of their arm bones. Fun. They're wrapped with cotton to help like grip them, and they're topped with raven's feathers. They get passed down, so like his kid is gonna have his and his dad's, you know, so on and so forth. Grandpa's always gets put in the ground.
Yeah, you hang on to Grandpa's until you die, then Grandpa's gets retired.
Right. So Kaylin is like, hey, thanks for bringing the spirits of your like family with you. That's pretty fucking cool. I like that you're protecting me. This was a whole thing. Cool.
She makes a point to him. That's cool because we are mud people. Like, we are mud people. So they're our ancestors too, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever it's mentioned, it's not like, hey, you brought your ancestors. It's like, no, the mud people's ancestors of which we are a part.
Yes.
They're very, I don't think they're being careful about it, but they are sure to be inclusive, or they're including themselves in that group when they're talking about it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important if you're going to take the benefits of being a mud person to make sure that you definitely do that every time.
Right. And for the love of God, do not eat with your left hand.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Talk about customs and traditions. That is not when you want to fuck up.
Yeah, don't. So Chan gets a little bit pissy at this point. He tells Kaylin she's at fault for all of the mud people dying at the hands of Dark and Rawl. His grandpa taught his dad and his uncle, Toph, who, by the way, Kaylin killed, in case we forget. And Kaylin fucked up his protection of his people by bringing Richard there.
Because of all the shit that followed Richard, not because of him directly.
Well, yeah, but Chan's point is if Kaylin had never brought Richard, none of that would have happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you really can't argue with that, can you?
Yeah, and I think that's the point that she kind of drops that. She's like, I can't argue about that point, but, you know.
Well, I think you could tell that to Chan all day long anyway, and it wouldn't make a lick of difference to him. He's like, yeah, but you still got my people hurt. Yeah, but if we hadn't done what we did, literally everybody would be dead. And I think you would still get a blank stare and a, okay, so? Like, doesn't matter. Harm befell us because of you, so never letting it go.
Well, and that is actually what Kaylin tries to do. She tries to tell him, you know, that's what we had to do. Your ancestors literally told Richard that that's what we had to do. Just like they told your fucking grandpa that you were just telling me a story about. They couldn't fight the way that Darkin wanted him to fight. He had to come around and do it the way he knew how to fight. His style, not Darkin's style. And again, Chan just won't drop the idea that if Richard hadn't been there, it never would have happened. I think it would have been interesting for Kaylin to point out at that point, like, if we wouldn't have been at the Mud People Village, then everyone wouldn't have been saved, because we needed the guidance of the spirits to win. If we hadn't, we would have lost, which he kind of touches on a little bit. But when Chan is like, oh, if you wouldn't have brought him, everything would have been fine, Kaylin could have just been like, no, we would have died. So. You're
obviously not going to let it go, so I am going to hang out over here and have a beer, and you can just take some time to rant about that.
We'll be back right after this.
And we are back. So, at this point, Kaylin gets down to real talk with Shan. She asks, hey, do you know what it is I do. And I fucking love his answer. He's like, well, you scare people, so